Okay, so this video is completely unscripted and on a whim, naturally, given the content or the topic. But what I want to talk about is ADHD and esports, or ADHD and gaming, and what that actually is. A lot of people generally seem to look at ADHD or think of ADHD and they go, oh, okay, it's just this thing where you're a spaz and you can't quite focus, right? And that's the extent of what people think. They just think, okay, well, you can throw pills at it and you'll be fine. But no, that's not true. Throwing medication at it, sure, it can help, but that creates another kind of obstacle in which you're really only capable of, well, you feel only capable for a number of hours in a day, and sometimes depending on what you've ingested, what you've done or not done in terms of exercise, that can be as little as 4 hours when it is advertised to be up to 12. So before let's just jump into it. And this is gonna be funny coming from me, but when you feel like you're having a bad day, don't switch your sense, don't switch your mouse, don't switch your pad, don't move your monitor, don't change your settings. It's really, really hard. And especially those of us who have ADHD, I'm sure I'm not the only person who perpetually changes settings or mice or setup. But the one thing that I've found to hold extremely true is that where my mouse pad is positioned, where my pivot point for my arm is on my pad, we'll talk about that later, how far my monitor is, how high it is, the tilt it's at, where my keyboard is, where my fingers rest on my mouse, all that's super important in keeping it consistent. This sounds like it's just tips for anybody, and it is, but when you don't have ADHD, it's much easier to adjust to these small changes, these small variations that you might introduce, even inadvertently, like nudging your pad or changing your crosshair, moving how far your monitor is. But for others, it's really, really damning. It creates this mental block, and it's really hard to get past. So just don't do it. Seriously, just do not do it. Moving past that, eating foods, and this is again just a general ADHD thing, eating foods with magnesium helps a ton, and doing daily cardio helps a ton. Both of those things will help you more than I can explain. Just try it, I promise. On top of that, start your day off drinking a glass of water. It kickstarts your metabolism for the day, it keeps your skin clear. Also, you need water. But as soon as you wake up, drink 10-12 ounces of water before you do anything else. Just leave it by your bed. But now let's get into the main thing, and that's the thing that people don't seem to talk about as much, which is that ADHD, I'll just paint a picture and let me know if you guys had this when you were little, if you are ADHD. You would come home from school and you would have homework that you were perfectly capable of doing. It was very easy for you. Would have taken you 10 minutes, maybe 15 tops. But a show was on the TV that you didn't even necessarily like, or that you've already seen that episode a few times. Like when I was little, I would come home and, oh, Ned's Declassified is on. But that show, at that point, had been canceled. And so I'd already seen all the episodes. This is prior to Netflix and all that. Like, I didn't necessarily even want to watch it. But for some reason, I felt that I simply couldn't do the homework. That I know I should be doing it, that I know it's really easy. That I know I don't even like what I'm doing right now. That I know what I'm doing is irrational. And that when the report card gets in, I'm going to have hell to pay. And I can easily avoid that with just a few minutes of work right now. And now when you tell this to people, they pass it off and they just go, oh, so you're lazy. It's not necessarily being lazy. It's this impossible to properly put into words, but let me try. It's like this mental weighted blanket that you can't shake. and it feels like torture, because you really do know that you want to go do this thing, that you need to go do this thing, that you're capable of doing this thing, and that it'll be infinitely better for you in the long run. But for whatever reason, you just feel like that's not an option. Like, you can't. And that is a huge factor in games. If, you know, the option is to peek when you shouldn't peek on Widow, or rotate and take a better angle and take a safer position and have better timing, you know you will have more fun overall if you go and you make the proper rotation and you have proper timing. You know that you'll get more value. You know it's the better play, but you peek anyway. And it's the most infuriating thing in the world. And it's the same kind of weighted blanket on your mental that I talked about earlier with what I was describing with homework. It just doesn't make sense, and there's no proper way to shake it overnight. This is something that I still really struggle with, but overall, starting to build habits and teaching yourself that you can build new habits is a really good way of doing it. So putting a glass of water by your bed before you go to sleep and drinking it in the morning, building a new habit. It seems really small, and it is really small, but the rewards from that very small, easy habit that you can form are almost instantly noticeable. Within the first day, 2-3 days, you'll notice that your skin's more clear, you have more energy throughout the day, you're hungry when you should be hungry, not hungry when you shouldn't be hungry, and you just feel better overall, because that's what you should be doing every morning, is drinking a glass of water. And this kind of reinforces in your head that, hey, just doing this simple task that takes me 10 seconds, 20 seconds before I go to sleep every night has made my life better. And once you can start building up these kind of simple habits and kind of reinforcing it to yourself, almost like you're a dog, that they are things that you can do, which sounds so crazy, it's so simple, but I'm sure to those of you who are watching this that don't have ADHD, you just think I'm stupid, but I promise you it's a thing. But start building new habits, start reinforcing habits, good habits for yourself, and it will have this like tree-like impact on your entire life. And I'll be honest and say that I started this water thing a while ago and I stopped. I just, you know, couldn't be fucked, whatever. But the positive impacts that it had on my life were a lot. It led to me building other new habits, and some stuff happened. My mental kind of deteriorated a little bit, and I had dropped them all. And that led to me making huge mistakes. In a lot of different things. But if I had stayed on that track and stayed on doing what I know I should be doing in terms of just simply drinking water, right? When I should, you know, in the morning, waking up, drink the water, go on my run, eat the food I know I should be eating, things like that. I'm telling you, it has this like tree root effect where it just reaches down and touches every part of your life, and has such a far reach that I really, really would love for people to give it a go and tell me, you know, how it works for them and what all that. But again, just a TLDR, you can build new habits. Start small, get bigger, but you know, start with small habits. Let the habits that you start introducing into your life be very small at first, like the water or making your bed or things like that, and then go up from there. And you'll notice that while you're doing these things and while you're introducing these new habits and things like that, it's also somewhat getting you a schedule, and schedules help people with ADHD a ton too. It gives us a sense of purpose, because ADHD, again, like, you don't really, our fun receptors don't work like other people's. We have less fun with things, which is why we get bored so quickly and why we have problems focusing. We just don't get the same release that other people get. And so often we lack drive, we lack motivation, we lack kind of a sense of purpose. So giving yourself what currently to you seems like an arbitrary, like abstracted schedule, as you add on to it with these habits and go from there and build on, it'll become a more kind of a solid schedule. It doesn't have to be, you know, perfect, but more just things that you do every day, and it will give you a sense of purpose. And again, you know, from the water to making your bed to running to eating properly to eventually like strength training and stuff, is something that I found to be really helpful. But all of that, I promise you, just give it a shot and it will make you play better. It'll make your life better. You'll be happier. You'll have more energy. You'll look better. Just please stick to it and give it a go. But yeah,